So just to introduce myself, I am Dr. Jolene Mayers-Dyer. Jolene, yes, as in the song. Let's get that out of the way as soon as possible. Indeed, and yes, I was named after the song. Any questions on that? Mayers-Dyer, yes, I have two surnames. Couldn't decide what to do when I got married, so I just kept both of them. I'm the overall course director, which means I kind of look after the overall kind of modules in the course and there's overall administration. And also I would look after have an overview of yourselves as students on the course. Just to say, as a start off, we are Screen Production. We are really fortunate to be part of what's called the Ulster Screen Academy, which I guess is a collection of similar screen-based courses throughout the university. We go across multiple schools and campuses, but we do sort of talk to one another and we do sort of communicate and think about ourselves as a family of courses. Fraser, you were just trying the raise your hand thing there. Did you want to ask a question? Or were you just having a go? Just having a go, maybe? Okay. So we're part of Film Ulster Screen Academy, and we go across these sort of key areas: film, TV, animation, games, immersive. Where are we located? Well, I'm assuming you all know this already, guys, but we are right in the heart of Belfast. And I guess you probably are aware that we do have a new campus. Have you all seen it being built? Don't know if you're Belfast based. You have seen it, Abby? Yes, you have. Okay. We've always been in Belfast at the existing campus. Obviously, the new campus is being bought just across the road. But there we are, folks, right in the heart of Belfast, right in the heart of Hipsterville, Cathedral Quarter, where it all happens. Where all the cool hipster people like me hang out. No, I'm kidding. I have to remember this is being recorded. Okay, but I'm assuming it's part of the attraction. Do you like the sound of being sort of based in the heart of Belfast? Does that sound good, folks? Yeah, we like that. Yeah, super. Okay, it's great. All right, so we're in the heart of Belfast. Just to give you a bit of an overview of the course. So it's a 3 to 4 year program. I'll talk about what may options you might have in your third year. So it's 3 year taught, and you always have the option in your third year to do a DPP placement, or in other words, a diploma in professional practice, which is a year-long placement, or you do also have the option to study abroad for a year in your third year. The course itself is, of course, it's screen production. We're all about making things, we're all about production. So the course itself is intensely practical. As soon as you come in, you'll be doing modules in cinematography and editing and screenwriting and all that in your first year. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our sort of core areas of production, which you will move into in second year. Our course is very much designed in consultation with industry, with local industry, and we do have good relationships with local production companies, NI Screen, BBC Studios, as an example. And we're very much aimed at sort of staying with contemporary industry practice, with what's kind of going on currently. So again, these are our 4 core areas of production, which is fiction film, single cam live TV and live broadcast, documentary, and virtual production. And our live broadcast is a core module that you will take in second year, and you'll have a wonderful, students love the module and they have a really fun time playing around with that. Okay, yes, technical craft oriented storytellers, researchers. So I guess this is what we are thinking of your skill set for when you come out. You will have technical skills, you will have craft skills, but also you will be able to think about narrative and telling stories, but also you will have an academic basis or thread to your course throughout your time with us. And you will be media savvy and, of course, broadcast literate. Okay. I guess overall, what we want you to do is for us to produce students or graduates with a real sense of social responsibility. So a sense that how your production practice operates within a wider, what we might call political economy. Combined with those very hard skills in terms of sort of familiarity with equipment and software, etc. Um, and in order then to begin to sort of situate yourself and where you might fit in with this kind of ever-growing screen media sector. Um, as already said here, the course delivers industry-focused creative technical skills underpinned completely at all times by theoretical and historical knowledge of screen-based media. How does that sound, folks? Any questions on that so far? We all good? Sounds good. Thank you, Johnny. Great, everyone. Really cool. Thank you, Rebecca. Marvelous. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Thank you for Sarah. Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, folks, let's plow on. So tell you a little bit more about our actual modules that make up the course. In year one, as I've mentioned already, we see year one as kind of your core building block modules to give you kind of those fundamental skills that you will then be able to transfer across to all our core production areas in second year. So in your first semester, you'll start right off getting straight in there with cameras and lighting, and you'll do a whole module on cinematography. You will also begin your core theoretical module with our fabulous Steve Baker. And you will begin from the outset of thinking of those kind of bigger ideas around sort of ideology, political economy, etc., etc. To start off, giving you that kind of broad base of thinking about how screen and narrative operate at that kind of societal level. Really interesting stuff. You'll also do editing. We like to start off with that because it's a core skill. I mean, the way this module works, it's also a bit of an introduction to sort of film and film studies, and we think about the evolution of editing practice right from the silent era right through to the current era, which we would call the postmodern era. And of course, within this, your coursework will be doing a couple of edits. All led and supported by, obviously, by myself and with our fabulous technical demonstrating staff. In your second semester, then you will focus on sound. Sound, as we know, absolutely integral to storytelling, to any kind of screen-based narrative, be it film, TV, games, whatever it might be. Sound, absolutely crucial. So you will, from first year, begin to develop that familiarity with obviously equipment and mics and all the different stuff that we have here, but also how integral it is to narrative. Obviously, if we're producing fiction film, we need to start with an idea, we need to start with a script. And so we will give you, in your first year, that building block of sort of an introduction to screenwriting, at the end of which you will, of course, produce a script. Second semester, then you have your second theoretical module, which is screen stories, and that you move on from that sort of bigger, sort of perhaps wider societal stuff, and you think a little bit more about sort of narratives, construction, genre, and how all those impact the different forms and platforms with which we participate, that we engage with every day. Anybody, any questions on those so far? How does the course differ from cinematic arts? Great question, Olivia. Maybe if I move on to second year, I guess cinematic arts has its focus primarily in fiction film. So fiction film and drama. Whereas if I move on to second year, you will see that we also do fiction film, documentary, but we also do live broadcast. We also do TV studio work, and we also have our brand new strand in virtual production. So cinematic arts, yes, much more about focusing solely on fiction film, we, I guess, have perhaps a slightly, I studied media for 2 years now. So, Reagan, wow, wonderful. You studied media for 2 years now, brilliant. Yes, that will be a great grounding for you, Reagan. That sounds ideal, brilliant. So does that make sense, Olivia? So cinematic art's much more focused on, I think they have a documentary thread as well, but fiction film. But I guess with us, we also have our studio, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. You'll also get a chance to sort of work in a studio environment, and we also have our brand new industry cutting edge thread, which is virtual production, which we think is a really exciting new area um, of screen based production. And we will have, we are at the minute, we are just about to complete our new, it's called our Viper studio, which is our virtual production studio, which will also be on the 5th floor on Belfast campus. So not only will we have sort of a green screen studio, we also have our new Viper studio as well. Does that answer your question, Olivia? You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so yes, year two, you carry on your our core theoretical thread that you started in first year, and you think about that a little bit more, I guess, localized screen identities. You might think a little bit more about national cinemas, and we might even think a little bit more about our screen-based sort of identities here and how that manifests in the work we make, in the stories that we tell. So it is also, you also think about sort of different national cinemas, but you'll also think about our own sort of more localized identities as well. This is our short film modules, and you'll do these two modules across all of second year. So again, you will, by the end of second year, you will have worked to develop a script, go into production, and produce a short film by the end of your second year. You will also do documentary with me. And again, this will be in your first semester of second year. And in that module, you will make two short documentaries, usually on the same subject, but in a slightly different style. I guess just to show us how flexible the whole documentary genre is. We might usually come into it with some fixed ideas about what we think it should be. But I really like students to widen that and to know how flexible the whole documentary genre is, which is why we take the same subject and we make it in two different documentary styles. And students do a wonderful job with that. Okay, then you also have your sort of TV studio based module, which is live broadcast, again, which students absolutely love. And again, you will work in larger groups actually in our green screen studio space to produce a piece of TV type content. Our exciting sort of additional thread, again, is our virtual production thread. And again, we have our brand new Viper studio on the 5th floor, which is a virtual production based studio based space. So again, you'll be able to work in that kind of really exciting new field. As we know, anyone seen The Mandalorian, for example? Johnny, you have? Yep. And Werner Herzog's in it, right? Isn't Werner Herzog? Okay, do documentary with me. You'll know all about Werner Herzog. No spoilers. No spoilers. But what is interesting about Mandalorian is that it was a virtual production. So none of the sets are real, but they are all virtual. And this is a really interesting direction in which kind of film and TV based production is going. And our course is right, I guess, but we're right on the edge of that. We find we're really interested in it, interested in how it's going to sort of affect industries, how it will affect story and narrative, but also just in terms of, yes, I get the technological advances. So does that make sense, folks? So in your second year, you will sort of go into, so you do your core building block modules in first year, and in second year, you will sort of move into our 4 core areas, which is fiction film, documentary, live TV broadcast, and virtual production. How do you like the sound of that, folks? Sounds awesome. It is awesome, Johnny. I agree with you. Class, amazing, great. It is. I mean, it's just, where else could you get to study these sort of fascinating things other than as part of a screen production degree? Yes. Can we give some more details on virtual production? I could now. Now I don't teach in this area. This will be run by obviously our specialists in this area, but it will, as we see, you can see it's called VFX virtual production. VFX meaning okay, sort of special effects. So it will be. It will also be sort of quite lab based. Quite software based, so you'll maybe learn things a bit like ultra key and green screen, so it will be integrated into kind of editing post-production software, which is interesting about virtual production because it almost sort of flips around the production process where you think of sort of production set building first. In virtual production, you almost think about post-production first, if that makes sense. So yeah, it will be that element is quite sort of software and lab based, but you will, for example, by the end of those modules, come up with what we call plates. Maybe about three, maybe around three in level 2, and maybe a few more when we get to level 4, or sorry, level 6 or final year. So it will be introductory level, obviously at year 2, and then go on to be a little bit more specialized in year 3. But yeah, it'll be things like ultra key, green screen, bit of robo scoping, I think it's called. It's not my area, obviously. That we're absolutely blessed to have staff with real knowledge of that area. I don't know if does that tell you any more, Niall? All right, you're welcome. The short film section and what's expected. Short film is kind of basically what it is. You will work usually in groups, literally, to make a short film. So you'll learn all about sort of pre-production, production, and then post-production. So you'll probably spend the first semester, thinking up ideas, writing your script, planning the production, etc., and then in the second semester you will get into the actual making of your film. So you'll film, you'll get your, if you're using on-campus locations, you'll get all your external locations, get all your filming done, and then obviously you'll edit, produce, and submit your film. And as well as that, there will be some sort of written critical reflection or portfolio where you kind of document everything that you've done, sort of maybe your pitch, your proposal, your budget, your schedule, but also that sort of critical reflection at the end where you think about the sort of story that you've told. You perhaps think about any sort of ideological underpinnings that your film may have, consciously or unconsciously. So you're kind of linking what you're doing back to all the things that you're thinking about in your theoretical modules. So yeah, so this, you will produce a short film with me. You'll produce 2 short documentaries and live broadcasts. You will work in groups to actually make a piece of sort of live TV content. Virtual production, and probably a little bit more sort of VFX lab based. But yeah, all very production orientated. How is time split between theoretical and practical content? Great question. Sorry, Rebecca, I missed your question before. Do you need a lot of experience or a portfolio to be accepted on this course? Rebecca, no, we start everyone at first year on the same level. Many of our students might come and you might not have done moving image arts. You might have done, I don't know, sort of English or history or anything like that. We start everybody from the same level. So generally you just need to meet the, the tariff entry points, but we don't have any specific requirements for what you need, other than obviously an interest in this kind of area. Niall, how is time split between theoretical and practical content? Okay, it will, for example, in my documentary module, you will have sort of a 2-hour lecture with me where we think about kind of the history and the nature of documentary film, and you'll also have 2-hour workshops where we think a little bit more about production in relation to documentary film. And of course, the coursework itself is making 2 films. So much of the time of your time, when especially when it comes to the latter half of the module, will be spent in actually making your films. But in terms of classes, there usually is a combination of maybe sort of lecture and workshop. Virtual production, for example, there might be sort of less lecture. It might be all sort of based in labs, if that makes sense. So it kind of depends a little bit on the nature of the module, but generally there's usually sort of a split between lecture and practical workshop. Theoretical courses obviously will be sort of lecture, seminar type model as well. Does that make sense, Niall? Does that answer your question? Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, and I've answered that yet. Final year, oh sorry, this is year 3, you have the option for our study abroad, or you have the option to take a diploma in professional practice or a year-long industry placement. You can also choose not to do either of those. It's entirely your choice. Orla, you want to ask a question, or are you just experimenting with raise your hand function? Okay, are you there, Orla? It was an accident. No worries, no worries. It's great. It's great. You're getting used to using the raise your hand. That's super. All right, in your final year then, folks, I guess your first 2 years have been working towards you producing a major project, and you will produce a major project in any of those core areas. So you might want to focus, you might want to make a short film, you might want to make a documentary, you might want to do a TV studio-based piece, or you might want to do a more sort of virtual production piece. Or you might want to do maybe I don't know, a 360 documentary, whatever it might be. It might be a combination. But either way, you'll spend your first semester of your final year again planning, thinking, preparing, researching your major project. And then in semester 2, you will then obviously spend majority of your time working on making your major project in any of our core production areas. In the first semester of your final year, you will also do a second module on VFX virtual production, which will again move you up a stage from your second year module, and will just enhance and develop those skills a little bit further. Second semester of your final year, you'll be culminating in your final theoretical module, which is screen analysis. And again, this is where you will kind of put together all the things you've been thinking about in your previous theoretical modules, so screen identity, screen theory, screen stories, to work with the module coordinator here, most likely be Steve, to produce your own piece of screen analysis. And I guess that is your third year in a nutshell. Any questions there, folks? Where do students go for placement? It varies. It varies. It has been, to be honest, it has been a little bit more challenging in the current COVID context. But that, I mean, it can be, gosh, we'd have students go on placement with local production companies is probably a big one. I've had students do placements with BBC Studios, and iScreen, that kind of thing. It varies. It varies. We do have a member of staff, Mark, who will be looking after this element of the course. And again, we're always building and making those kind of connections with, what are the options when we study abroad? Connections with kind of local industry. Rebecca, what's the options on when we go to study abroad? You can study in Europe, anywhere in Europe, or well, with partner institutions, and we also have options in the US. Now, again, obviously, COVID has added some sort of further layers of complication to that. So, as you can imagine, it made some of that a bit more challenging the past couple of years. The US seems to be a very popular destination. I've had lots of students go to various locations in the US in previous years. Um, at the minute, you're very much keeping an eye on kind of the ongoing COVID situation. So, sort of your well-being and safety is the most important consideration at the moment. US sounds cool. Yeah. Yeah, quite it seems to be quite a popular option. Yeah. But again, throughout the year, we have our sort of international office who kind of looks after all that stuff. And once you're here, they can advise and they give sort of information about your options. And again, how they might be slightly different in sort of the current COVID context. But if you do come and study with us, there'll be loads more information that we can give you on that when you're with us. You're welcome. All right, just to give you what are some of the placement option opportunities. Oh gosh, let me give you an example. Well, gosh, last year this would be I guess they were placements, but this just came up during the summer. So for example, I had a group of students work last year. Anyone seen the Blame Game, which is studio based type TV show? Yeah, great. Yeah. So I had a bunch of students, for example, go and work as production assistants on the Blame Game, just as an example. I ended up appearing on the show, being one of the persons who asked a question, which I have yet to live down. But that's just one example. Gosh, in the past we've had students work on sort of higher end stuff. We had them work when the MTV Awards came here. We had students work on that. When the Golf Open was here, I had a number of students who remember the Open when it happened in Portrush. Wasn't it Portrush? Yeah. I had a number of students who spent quite a bit of time working on those. So we do have these close links, and people will come to us looking for students to give opportunities to, and we respond to that. So it's not all about just the year-long placement. It's kind of opportunities throughout that come up that we will put your way, which students really value. Okay, I'm not going to go over the equipment too much because a lot of this probably won't mean very much to you. But as you can see here, we have an unusual range of really high-end industry standard equipment. And as Declan, who is kind of our specialist in this area, Declan Keeney, has now built a partnership with Epic Games, Unreal Engine, who is a piece of sort of virtual production software. And we are one of their sort of academic partners. Okay. Our facilities then, as I've already talked to you about, we have a dedicated film TV studio with a green screen and infinity curve. So you'll see when you come in, it's literally surrounded by green screen. Within that, we have our lighting grid. We also have 2 computer labs. I think we have a picture of those here. Yep, we do indeed. Okay, so this is an example of one of our computers / editing labs on Belfast campus. We have our very own dedicated edit suites, which you can see here, also brand new. Obviously, we have our fabulous library and study facilities. We have our dedicated screening room / classroom. And of course, we have our live multicam broadcast facility. We also have our NI film archive and study resource. We have a little dedicated room for that. You can access loads of wonderful material from NI Screen's archive. All right, again, I've just shown you that before, an example of our green screen, example of our edit lab on Belfast campus. Staff involved, okay, we've seen me, so I sort of teach the documentary editing, and I've recently moved into, which has really been interesting, sort of using 360 cameras in short film and documentary. As we said, Declan Keeney is our specialist in film, cinematography, VFX, virtual production. The inimitable Steve Baker, who is our media theory guru. We have Dr. Mark Benson, who is our specialist in sort of TV, live studio, multi-camera. We have Michael McKnight, wonderful sound specialist who has worked on lots of wonderful stuff, including the double band wonderful documentary called Road. We have Dr. Jenny Carlston, who has loads of links with British Film Institute, Film Hub, and she will teach you screenwriting. We are so blessed to have two dedicated technical demonstrators. So I guess all these staff here would be considered sort of both academic and production staff. And then we have the wonderful Una and Phil, who have wealth of 20 years plus experience between them. For example, working for the BBC in studio, camera, short film, all sorts of things. And from time to time, we also have industry professional-led workshops. Some of you are asking about this. Again, this is some of our industry connections. So as I just mentioned there, we now have a connection with Epic Games, who's our academic partner. We do have connections with Belfast Media Festival. We usually make space in the timetable for students to attend that. Belfast Film Festival, obviously, we have connections with Future Screens NI, obviously, City Deal, and this SMIL stands for the Screen Media Innovation Lab, and that is a brand new, again, for even bigger virtual production stage facility that is going to be built kind of in the docks area of Belfast. I mentioned the Ulster Screen Academy Docks Ireland Festival. I am connected to an NI Screen, obviously. Keelan, is there any events in the near future that will allow us to visit campus, or is that not possible due to COVID? It's a good question, Keelan. It's one I'm not sure of at the moment, but I can tell you COVID-19, as I'm sure we're all aware of, is it, you know, I guess a situation that none of us has ever been in before in our lifetime. I should say that even at the height of the COVID pandemic, our students, Ulster was fantastic in that we made sure that any classes that needed to happen on campus still happened on campus. So, for example, at the height of the pandemic, our students were still coming in and working in the studio and making their live TV and making their short films. They still made documentaries with me. We just had to adapt our practices to make them as COVID safe as possible. Now, at the moment, we are planning, as it says here, excuse me, we hope and expect to welcome students back to a safe, vibrant, on-campus learning experience from September 21. But again, we have to bear in mind government and public health guidance at all times. So, I mean, we still have things you notice throughout campus. We have hand sanitizing, maybe some sort of one-way systems. There may be some, you know, sort of social distancing, etc., still be in place to keep everyone safe. So, in terms of on-campus events, I'm not sure about any of those in the immediate future, Keelan, but in terms of practice teaching, what date do first year students start back? First year, or week one, so induction will take place week commencing 13th of September. Our year one induction will be 15th of September, and then week one will start week commencing 20th of September. That makes sense, Reagan. Okay, Where did we get to? Yes, courses. Yes, just our courses are constantly in review. We keep them up to date. We tweak them. We change them every year because we want to stay relevant. We want to stay current. We want to make sure that we're having. You're welcome, Keelan. That we're still sort of, employing best practice, both pedagogically and sort of technologically. But just where sometimes modules may change, the teaching staff may change, but that is usual and expected. What else do we have here? God, well, I think we've been chatting throughout, haven't we, folks? Which is super. Any questions about entry requirements? These published on our course pages on the Ulster website. Any information on equivalencies and specific circumstances? The live chat function is available 9:30 to 3:30, and there will be a live admissions Q&A today at 2:45 if you have any questions around admissions. All right, we've talked about that, talked about changes. Okay. Any further questions, folks? All right. Give me a thumbs up if you're still with me. Are there opportunities in placement outside of TV, for example, fiction film? Yeah, that's a good question. Johnny, fiction film. I'm just trying to think of specific examples from the past. Yes, I mean, yes, for example, I'm thinking of a student a few years ago who once did a placement it was up in Ballykelly at the time. But yes, we've had many students do sort of placements in some of the bigger sort of TV studio work that happens here. And SMIL, the Screen Media Innovation Lab, will also have, sort of higher end studios as well, which we would really hope to link students in with in the future. And yes, we do have that existing connection with NI Screen, who will also put those sort of opportunities our way. So yes, in the past, students have done placements around sort of fiction film as well as TV broadcast. So yeah, we are a bit of a hybrid in that sense. But what you will get from our course is that sort of broad base. You'll get to dip your toe in those sort of areas, and then you'll kind of maybe get a sense for if you prefer one. You might want to move on to that sort of maybe postgraduate study or something like that, or you might want further, sort of additional training after you do your degree, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, I guess to answer your question, it isn't always only solely sort of TV based. Okay. Any further questions, folks? Gosh, I'm conscious I've made this much more much more interactive. I cannot do it. I have to chat to you. Is there any type of portfolio required as a request when applying for it? Keelan, no. You maybe missed this bit at the start. Any type of portfolio required? No, we don't require any portfolio. As I mentioned, I think someone else asked this question before. We start everyone at first year at the same level, okay, the same sort of entry level. We just, in terms of entry requirements, it's just the UCAS points, usually around BBC or equivalent. That's usually all that we require. We don't have any specific requirements, and no, we don't require a portfolio. Niall, after first year, are you split into skill level? Niall, no, you're not. No, we don't split into skill level on that basis. No. Regan, will we get an email on times when to come in? Regan, you're starting with us? Yeah, next week. Yes, we will be in touch. you should already have details of your welcome page. There should be a link. Each course has called a welcome page, and on the welcome page there is the link to your induction session. So yeah, if you have a look out for that, no worries. We'll get an email first years, but no. Okay,